This lesson is on surface area formulas for prisms and cylinders. Prisms are simply a polyhedron that has two bases that have to be parallel and congruent, and then the sides or the faces have to be quadrilaterals. Prisms are named by the shape of their bases. For example, if this was the base, I would call this a rectangular prism because the base is a rectangle. Prisms can either be right, which means that the faces make right angles with the bases, or they can be oblique, and you can see that these would not be 90-degree angles. We still talk about altitude like we did with two-dimensional shapes, so the altitude shows the height, but it's the height that joins the bases. It's the segment that you draw in between the two bases. There's two parts to surface area. There's lateral area, which means the area of the faces, of the sides, and then there's the base area. Whether there's one base or more than one base doesn't matter, but in general, to find the surface area of a figure, you take the lateral area, the area of the sides, plus the area of the bases. That's the general formula. So everything before the plus sign will deal with the area of the sides. Everything after the plus sign will deal with the area of the bases. Specific to prisms, you can draw a net for a prism and find the individual areas of each side and then add them together. We've done that before. That's one way to find surface area. However, if you don't have the ability to do that or the space, then you can also use the formula for surface area. Now, this is the specific formula for the area of a prism. The values that you see here, P stands for perimeter, H stands for height. Now, remember what I just said, everything before the plus sign is the lateral area. Okay, so these have to do with the sides. And then everything after the plus sign has to do with the bases. Okay, so it's 2 times, and I'll explain the parentheses in a minute, but this is the area of the base. We use a capital B to represent the area of the base. Instead of just saying base, we use a capital B to talk about the area of the base. Prisms have 2 bases, that's why we multiply by 2. So what we will do to find the surface area of a prism is we will take the distance around the prism, the perimeter, times the height, the distance between the bases, and then we will add to it 2 times whatever the area of the base is. In a prism, that area can be that shape can be just about anything. In this case, I bolded the bases for you. So we can see that in this picture, in this prism, our bases are triangles. In this picture, our bases are rectangles. So we will use a different formula to find the area of our base depending on what shape our base is. So let's try a couple of examples of finding the surface area. We're going to start by finding the lateral area and then adding to it the area of the bases. So the perimeter, the distance around this figure, would be this value plus this value plus this value. So we know that this one's 5, this one's 6. We're given that. The question is, what is the distance here? And since they don't give us that distance, we have to find it. Well, we can find it because this is a right triangle, and the easiest way to find that is using the Pythagorean theorem. So we will do 5 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. And when we get the answer to that, it comes out to be 7.8. So now the perimeter would be 5 plus 6 plus 7.8, which gives us 18.8. And then we take that times the height of the figure. That's the distance between the bases. So we would take 18.8 times 8. That will give us the lateral area. That will give us the area of the sides. Then to that, we have to add 2 times the area of the base. So we have to find the area of the triangle. Well, triangles are 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 times 5 times 6 is simply 15. So we would take 2 times 15, we would add that to our lateral area, and our total surface area for this figure would be 180.5 square units. Moving on to this one, we're going to follow the same pattern. We're going to do perimeter, the distance around the figure, times the height of the figure, and then add 2 times the base. So to get the lateral area, the area of the sides, we would find the perimeter. The distance would be 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5. That gives us 18. Times the height of our shape, which is 8. 18 times 8 is 144 square units. So that is the lateral area. That's the area of just the sides. To that, we're going to add the area of the bases twice. So the area of the base would be 4 times 5, which would be 20. So we would take our 144 and add 2 times 20 to that, and we would get 184 square units. You're going to have to be very careful on these problems so that you recognize which sides are the bases and which sides are the faces, because you want to find the distance around and the height between the bases for the lateral area. So pay closer attention to that. We're going to move on now to surface area of a cylinder. Surface area of a cylinder is a little bit easier because the shape of the base will not change. And to find the distance around the shape, or the lateral area, it's basically the circumference times the height. So if you look on this formula, this part is the circumference formula, and then we just take it times the height. That will give us the area of the sides. To that, we'll take 2 times, and then the area of the base, since it's a circle, we use pi r squared for the area of a circle. So our surface area of a cylinder is done by taking 2 times pi times radius times height plus 2 times pi times radius squared. You can leave these in exact form or you can round them. It makes no difference. Notice the only 2 things you have to know for this formula are the radius of the cylinder and the height of the cylinder. Those are the only 2 values that are needed. So lateral area, the part before the plus sign, we will take 2 times pi times the radius times the height. So 2 times pi times 8 times 12 gives us 192 pi for the lateral area of this fish tank. To that, we would add the area of the base, which is the circle. So we would do 2 times pi times radius squared. Our radius squared is 64. So 2 times pi times 64 gives us 128 pi. So we would add 192 pi to 128 pi, and we would get 320 pi in exact form, or 1005.3 square units in rounded form. Same thing, we would follow the same formula here. To find our lateral area, we would do 2 times pi times 4 times 10, which would give us 80 pi. To that, we will add the area of our bases. 2 times pi times radius squared, 4 squared is 16, which is 32 pi. 80 pi plus 32 pi is 112 pi in exact form, or we can multiply it out and get 351.9 as our rounded form. That's how you use the surface area formulas for prisms and for cylinders. That ends this lesson. The homework for each class is as follows.